All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm excited to talk with you about how we support your child's behavior at school and how we can partner to support positive behavior at home. So thank you all for being here. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself to those of you I do not know. I have not had the chance to meet you in any of my previous events or through any school events, but my name is Megan Goldman, and I am the Director of Social, Emotional, and Behavioral Learning here at Hawthorn. This is my 20th year in the district, which feels hard to believe sometimes. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to serve in a number of roles here, from classroom teacher. I taught 4th and 5th grade at Elementary South. I served as an assistant principal at a few of our elementary schools. I was the coordinator of student services for 2 years, and most recently in my current role, supporting social emotional learning and behavior across all of our schools in our district. What I love the most about Hawthorn is the community. Our students, our families, and our staff truly make this a very, very special place. So tonight's presentation is focused on PBIS, which is a preventative and proactive framework, which teaches children the skills and behaviors that they need, recognizing them when they get it right, and giving them opportunities to practice these skills. Tonight, during the presentation, we are also going to talk about some strategies that you can use at home that are aligned with PBIS, such as defining and teaching clear expectations, using consistent positive language, recognizing and reinforcing positive behavior, and we're going to talk about how we can really tie it together between home and school and stay consistent. I do just want to say one piece of this is that, like all schools, we do have a student handbook, and that outlines our behavior code, right? Inclusive of prohibited student conduct, disciplinary measures, including information around board policies on bullying, harassment, things of that nature. But I do want to be clear that the real focus of tonight's presentation is not on discipline and consequences. It's really on what can we do before it ever gets to that point. PBIS is focused on prevention and proactive approaches. So when we emphasize that proactive approach to behavior, kids are learning the tools to make better choices, and we reduce the amount of need for discipline. So of course, if something happens, we follow our handbook, but our main goal is to build those positive habits and see our students succeed. So I just wanted to be clear about kind of what PBIS this is and what it isn't. So with that being said, we're going to jump on in. And I just want to note the word parent. When I use the word parent, it's really all inclusive of anybody who is the primary caregiver of the child. So a parent might be a parent could be the adult who had the child. It could be a relative. It could be foster parents, anybody who is nurturing the growth and well-being of that child in that home. When I use that word parent, that's what I'm referring to. So let's find out who's in the room. What brings you here tonight? So if you have access to the chat, feel free to answer one of these prompts. What brought you to join our first Educate and Empower event of the school year? So feel free to share. What's the best part about being a parent? Maybe one word that describes your parenting style, or finish this sentence. Parenting is ... What is parenting to you? And let's see who's in the room. If you're not comfortable engaging with the chat, absolutely, you do not have to. I think I was talking to somebody today who's a new parent, and I said it is the scariest yet most rewarding job. There's really... That's kind of how I summed it up with her. Somebody just said parenting is the hardest and best job in the world. Very similar to what I just said. Yes, it is hard, which is why we do these Educate and Empower nights. Parenting is the hardest job out there. I have seen that myself. I have two boys, 11 and 8. And sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? I doubt my decisions, and this is what I do for a living. So it's tough, which is why this community is so important, that we really lean on each other and educate and empower each other. Parenting is 24 hours a day, somebody said. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Right? The mental load. The best part about being a parent is sharing in the joy of being a child with the little human you love more than yourself. Aw, love that. Love it, love it. Thank you for engaging with that. So let's go ahead and jump in. Um, Really quick, I just want to define what parent engagement is. And parent engagement is so important in how you engage with the school, because it's going to lead to better student behavior and higher academic achievement. There is research that shows that it directly correlates to improved behavior and higher academic achievement. And it enhances the social and emotional skills in students. Social and emotional skills, those are life skills. Those are those soft skills that honestly most job applications are looking for now in the interviews. When you look at job postings out there, I saw a statistic the other day. It was like, I'm making this up, but it was like, it was higher than 50% about what future careers are looking for. They're looking for those social emotional skills. Can you work in a team? Can you communicate effectively with others? These are those soft skills that we're teaching, right? So that parent engagement piece is so important. It's going to enhance so many academic and SEL skills in our children. So thank you for being here tonight. You just being here tonight reinforces that amazing community that we have here at Hawthorn. So thank you for being here. Parent engagement, the parents and school staff working together to support and improve the learning, development, and health of children and adolescents. Absolutely. All those things I just said, those benefits. So before we jump in here, what we're going to do is I want you to put yourself in the shoes of your child. We're going to talk a little bit about the background of, what is happening socially and developmentally and emotionally with your child right now at their age. Because that might help you better understand what their behavior is communicating. All behavior is communication. So behavior is telling us something. It's what is going on that is causing that behavior. What's the underlying cause? So let's take a look at some of the developmental changes that are happening perhaps in our children. So if you have a 6 to 8 year old, you might see that they're looking for more independence from their parents and family, right? They can do more things on their own. They're starting to be able to plan for the future more, look into, next month, next year. They're able to really see that more. They understand more about where's their place in the world. They're starting to become a little more independent. They definitely start to pay more attention to friendships and teamwork, and they really want to be liked and accepted by their friends. So if you have a 6 to 8 year old, obviously this is a wide range, but these are some of the different emotional and social changes you may see in your child. If you have a 9 to 11 year old, and my 11-year-old is at the end here of this one, but definitely I see more of it in the next strand I'm going to show you. They really start to form stronger, more complex friendships and peer relationships. And they start to have more friends, especially of the same sex. So you start to see more of the boys and girls going off together and separating a little more here. They also might experience a little more peer pressure at this age, and they are becoming more aware of their body as puberty is approaching. And then we have our 12 to 14-year-olds, right? This is where I think my 11-year-old is heading right, might be here already. Here's some changes you might see. They're starting to show more concern about their body image, their looks, and their clothes. You might even see what you might call like a meltdown over what they're wearing to school that day, something like that. They're very focused on themselves, right? Very egocentric, but they go back and forth between I have really high expectations and then I have no confidence. I'm the best at this. I stink at this. You really start to see some more extreme mood changes at this age as well. And they're really more interested in their friends and influenced by their peer group more at this age. And this one, I personally hate this one. They're expressing less affection towards their parents, and they might even sometimes seem rude or short-tempered. Oh my goodness, my son was just like, to me the last time I asked him to do something, and I was like, oh no, this one's not going to work with me. So I definitely am seeing a little bit of this at home. And they also start to feel a little more stressed from some more challenging schoolwork. So these are all normal developmental, emotional, social changes that we're starting to see in those different age bands. And those are from the CDC website. So let's talk a little bit about how we support students' social emotional well-being here at Hawthorn. We have so many social emotional supports for all students at a varying level of development in all of our grades. We implement PBIS, which is the focus of tonight's parent night. We have advisory, which focuses on those social emotional skills in grades 6 through 8. We have an entire social emotional learning curriculum with foundational resources like Second Step and Wayfinder for our students. We offer tiered interventions for students who might be struggling to follow the behavioral expectations. You may have even heard maybe one of your children are participating in what's called check-in, check-out. That's a special intervention for students who perhaps need some more reteaching on the behavioral expectations. They get paired up with a teacher mentor to work on that and get more feedback around their behavior throughout the day. We have high quality SEL resources. We have social workers available for all students as well. So as you can see, this is really a focus of our district, is the social emotional well-being of all of our students. So the purpose of tonight is PBIS. PBIS, we love acronyms in education, right? So what this means, it's a framework, okay? And it stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And the root philosophy of PBIS says that students can only meet the behavior expectations when they know what the expectations are. So we must teach expectations. We must reinforce them. We must allow students to practice them. They need feedback on it. They need to have an opportunity to try again if they're struggling. And then if they are struggling following those behavioral expectations, then we need to intervene, right? Using a tiered approach. So just like I mentioned earlier, that check-in, check-out intervention, maybe a student just needs more feedback throughout the day, some more check-ins with the mentor around their behavior. That is a tier 2 intervention to support students who are struggling behaviorally. Perhaps a student is struggling with emotional regulation and they need some remediation, some really explicit, intense a teaching of strategies for emotional regulation, of how to calm their body. They might get some support from a social worker at that tier 3 level, we call it. That's that red part of the triangle. And that is, how we want to teach them those skills that they might be lacking. But the idea behind PBIS is that all students know the expectations, we practice them, we explicitly teach them, and we reinforce them. And then we reteach and intervene when necessary. PBIS focuses on having really a core set of expectations. They recommend having like 5 or fewer basic expectations that you can apply to all areas. And we're going to talk about how you can apply these to the home. So at Hawthorn, we use the acronym SOAR. Now, I'm sure if you have been in the district for a while, you have seen these signs, or on social media, you've seen the SOAR awards at a school, or you've heard your child talk perhaps about getting Eagle Box or going to the SOAR store or SOAR expectations. So SOAR stands for Safe, On Task, Act Responsibly, and Respect. And what we do is we use this language around the school in various locations to set our positive expectations. So 3 times a year, students rotate through PBIS stations and they review these expectations. So it might look like a group of students, they rotate, they go to the bus station and they talk about, what does it look like to sit in our seat, keep our hands to ourselves, we keep the aisle clear. Why do we do this? Let's practice it. They rotate to the hallway expectation and they talk about practicing. How do we stay to the right? We keep our voice level low. How are we safe in the hallway? How are we respectful in the hallway? In the gym, in the classroom, all the different locations around the school, we are teaching these SOAR expectations. And then, of course, we want to reinforce it, right? We need to let kids know they're on the right track. It's going to build that behavior momentum. It really reinforces it so that we see more of it. You might see these reinforced using something called Eagle Box, where when we are verbally reinforcing the expectation, we're also giving that Eagle Buck, that reinforcer. In the middle school, they use something called live school points that are aligned with SOAR. So when they're following the SOAR expectations, they get these digital live school points. And the middle schoolers are really into those as well, because it's a little more middle school friendly with the digital component. They get really into it, and they have these cool like house competitions where they all have colors, and the more points the house color gets, they do fun competitions with it in the middle school. So they get really into that, which is awesome. All right, so let's talk about how can PBIS be applied at home. So we're going to go through a variety of PBIS practices. I'm going to talk about how we do it at school and then how you can apply it at home to your own life. So we are going to talk through how we set expectations, how we model them, how we teach them, how we reinforce them, how we practice them, and then what do we do when students struggle to follow the expectations? Because we know they're kids, they're learning. And our philosophy here at school is that they are still learning, and we want to help teach them how to fix that behavior, right? Let's try that again. What can you do differently? Who did that impact? Let's talk about how we can do better next time. That's really the focus, and that's called a restorative approach. All right, so positive parenting tip number 1. What we do at school is we do the SOAR expectations before learning activities. So how can you apply this at home? You can review expectations prior to different activities you do at the home. We can't assume that students will just know how to behave. So let's say, for example, you are going to the grocery store or a store with your child, and in that store experience, you want to think ahead to what the expectations are so that I can proactively talk about the expectations with my child. So, for example, I might say, okay, we're going to Target. The expectation is that you stay with me because I want you to be safe. The expectation is we're not buying anything that's not on the list. So don't ask me for candy or a toy. And the expectation is that when it's time to go, we walk out of the store and we don't do any whining or complaining in the store. Okay, that's the expectations. And depending on the age of your child, you can do it with them. Okay, we're about to go into the store. Here's what I'm thinking I want to see when we're in the store. Here's what respect looks like in a store. Here's what safe looks like. You can use that language that we use at the school with SOAR, with that acronym. But then what it does is it pre-corrects a behavior that you might see. So I don't know about you, but my kids are always asking for toys in stores. Well, can I just get one thing? Can I get this? Can I just get a candy gum, this? But I set the expectation before we even got into the store. So now my child knows, oh, I can't even ask because the expectation is we're not buying anything. And you want to make sure you're consistent with that and you hold that boundary, right? Because if you say, okay, fine, just this once, because maybe they're throwing a tantrum because you're not buying something, you give into it, we're just showing them that, oh, I'm not going to hold firm to my expectations. And while maybe in the short term you avoided a tantrum, but in the long term, it's not going to be helpful to teach them that these are expectations and these are the boundaries. So we want to make sure we're firm with those. And you can do it before different things you do. Hey, we're going to a friend's house. I'm dropping you off here at 8. Maybe that's too late. I'm dropping you off at a friend's house at 5. I'm picking you up at 7. I know normally you ask if you can stay longer when I get there and you beg me if I can come back later. That is really not expected. When I get there at 7, I want you to stop playing and come with me when I get there. Again, I've just done a pre-correction. I've set my expectations ahead of time because I want to be proactive and share the behavior I want to see. So as you can see here, by sharing what I expect before the activity, I'm avoiding maybe some of that conflict or the misbehavior because I've pre-shared it with them. That being said, does anyone have any questions? This is the first PBIS positive parenting tip. Does anyone have any questions or ideas or times you've done this and it's worked? I know this is something I use very, very frequently personally, is really pre-stating the expectations before different events, different activities. And that's really what we do in the schools as well, is we front load that. If you have any questions or thoughts or anything and you want to put it in the chat now, we are going to have some time for questions at the end, so we can always come back to it if you don't want to forget it, okay? All right, now positive parenting tip number 2. This one's all about reasonable choices. And really what we're doing here is we are teaching our children how to make a decision and accept consequences, right? And we're doing it while they're young so that they become adults who are able to weigh their options and accept a consequence. We're doing it while they're in a safe environment, while they have the support of parents and school staff. So here's what this looks like. Talking them through choices is going to help them understand the connection between their actions and their outcomes. You are building decision-making skills and self-control and problem-solving skills, okay? These are skills that they need for life. So let's think about what that might look like. Let me give you an example of how this can apply at home. Think about also when your child might say no. Be prepared for that. So you ask your child to clean something up or put something away, and they say no. You calmly say, I hear that you don't want to clean up right now, or I hear that you don't want to put your iPad away right now. If you clean up right now, we will have time for, a story before bed. If you don't clean up right now, then we don't have a time for a story. So in a really safe way, we're teaching them about choice making and consequences and accepting those consequences. Perhaps there's something they're struggling with homework or a situation at school. Okay, well, you can say to them, well, let's talk about your choices. You could either do this option, and what would be the consequences of that option if you talk to your friend about it? Okay, this might happen, or you could choose to ignore it and find someone else to play with at recess or go sit by at lunch. What would be the consequences, positive or negative consequences of that action? Let's talk it out. Let's see, which one do you want to do? We are really helping our children become problem solvers and learn how to assume responsibility. And that's a life skill that we're helping them develop at this age. So helping them talk through the consequences of their actions, whether they be positive consequences, negative consequences, but really teaching them that everything we do has a consequence, whether it be positive or negative. Okay. Speaking of children saying no, this one kind of goes along with it. Positive parenting tip number 3, when your child, because it's going to happen, right? When your child exhibits an unexpected behavior, and that's a word we use in the school, like expected behavior, unexpected. When your child exhibits this unexpected behavior, I want you to remember this: be what you want to see. Model how you would want to see your child respond when they are frustrated or upset. So the most powerful thing you can do when your child exhibits an undesirable action is you can model the response that you want them to do if they were frustrated. That starts with you, the adult, okay? We have to take a deep breath, stay calm, and be what we want to see. So for example, if your child is yelling or arguing with you, instead of raising your voice back, you might even lower your voice a little bit more and say to them, I'm going to speak calmly, and when you're ready, we can talk this through. Another great strategy that I really like is the when and then. It's the desired behavior, desired outcome strategy. When and then. When your voice is as low as mine, then we can talk through XYZ. When your body is calm, then you can have your iPad back. When you are ready to talk in a calm voice, then I will be happy to talk with you. I care too much about you to argue. We have to model that because that then becomes their inner voice. They are going to be watching us for how we react. And by modeling the behavior that we want to see them do it, we're teaching them how to handle this. When we stay calm, it actually takes the energy out of a situation. It actually will discourage that behavior from happening in the future. Behavior is contagious. When we escalate, after our child has escalated, we're not going to have a productive interaction. Okay. So some great strategies here are to take a deep breath, respond in even a lower tone. You can use the when and then strategy. When your body is calm, when you are done crying, then I will talk to you. When you are ready to talk, I will be here. As long as they're in a safe environment, it's okay to let them feel that. It's okay to let them process that feeling of, I'm upset and I need to help calm my body down. And you can work with them and do calming strategies to help calm it down. These are SEL skills that we're working on all the time at school. We're working on, we call it name it to tame it. I feel frustrated. Okay, you have to be able to name that feeling so you know how to find a healthy way to tame that feeling. I also love something that I recently learned about putting the word and in. So it kind of goes like this, like, okay, my child might be really angry and they hit a sibling. Okay, I might say, it's okay to be angry. And when we're angry, we don't hit, we walk away and take a deep breath. It's okay to be frustrated. And when we're frustrated, we need to take a deep breath and step away. And we need to use kind words when we're frustrated. It's okay to be mad at your sister, and we still need to show respect and take care of our belongings if perhaps they threw something or whatnot. So making sure you're really setting those expectations. So I just gave you a few strategies that can be really powerful in the moment for when you see that unexpected behavior. I encourage you to try one. I think they can be really powerful, but the most important thing is to stay calm and model what you want to see. If your child was to be frustrated or mad or upset, they're watching us. We have to model it. Positive parenting tip number 4. We use something called behavior-specific praise as part of PBIS. This is what I talked about earlier about reinforcing the positive. We don't want to constantly be saying, stop doing that, put that down, don't do that, no, stop. I told you, put that down, put that away. That's not how we do this. We want to also flip it. And we want to find when they are following those expectations, we want to point that out. That's called reinforcing the positive expectation. So, for example, if you ask your child to, time to turn off your iPad and come upstairs and get ready for bed, and they turn off their iPad and get upstairs right away. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for following that expectation the first time. That is amazing. Thank you for listening the first time. I loved that. That made me feel so happy. You want to point out the positives. The more you point out the positives, it builds behavioral momentum, which will create more of that same behavior. So again, we want to praise the positive of what we see them doing well, and not just constantly live in the don't do that, stop that, no, but take time to really point out the positive behavior that you see, because I do promise you'll see more of it the more you point out the positives. Oh, patience. Positive parenting tip number 5. This is tough. Patience is a learned skill. So if you have an opportunity to delay gratification, like, okay, I'll get to that, but in 5 minutes, let them sit with that. Don't instantly, we live in this instant gratification, right? Where like I just click a button and it appears, I get the next video. I go on Amazon, it's there the next day. We really have to teach children how to be patient. And there's ways you can teach that with like delaying maybe a response right away. Like, okay, I'll get to that in 5 minutes. You'll be okay. Let them be bored a little bit. Let them not be filled every second of every day. Let them explore and create and feel that boredom. That's going to help build that patience skill, that stamina. Acknowledge that it is hard. Yeah, it's hard to wait. Definitely, it can be uncomfortable, and I know you can do it. Um, you can also play games. That's a great way. Just get out the board games, Monopoly, Trouble, card games. Get out board games. Those are a great way to teach patience as well. But just remember that it is a skill that has to be taught and reinforced and practiced. And that is something that we can really do as parents, is help teach that patience piece. You can imagine in a classroom with 20 students and maybe one or two teachers and then one or two adults in the room. um, they're needing to be patient throughout the day. If they have a question, they have to wait until perhaps they're called on, or their need is met. So really teaching patience is something that can help connect that school and home. So, positive parenting tip number 6: what you say matters. Model positive talk. And this can be tough, absolutely, especially when you're hearing your child come home and say something. Your immediate reaction might be to be like, "Well, why? Why did that happen? That shouldn't happen." Or what was that person thinking? I don't know, something like that. Maybe your child comes home and they're really upset about a new rule. Instead of saying like, well, why would the teacher make that rule? That doesn't make any sense to me. We don't want to say that, because that is teaching your child that what the rule is or what the teacher said doesn't matter. Instead, you might want to consider, rules are important to keep you safe at school. And I'm confident that the teacher put that rule in place for a reason. So do you want to talk to your teacher and share your questions? Okay. That's a more positive, connected, homeschool connected way to maybe respond to that. Or maybe your child might say, I hate math. I'm never going to learn this. And instead of saying like, you don't hate math, you'll learn it eventually. Okay, let's validate that feeling, right? Oh, I hear you saying you're having a hard time learning something new in math. Am I right? What do you want to do about it? Do you want suggestions, or do you want to try to solve this problem on your own? And here's where you can really even practice in that scenario, that choice of, well, you could either try to learn it at home on your own, or you can ask your teacher for help. Let's play this out. Let's say you don't ask your teacher for help. What could happen? What are the consequences of that choice? Let's say you email your teacher, or you go talk to your teacher tomorrow about, I'm struggling with this. This is hard for me. What could be the consequence of that? Let's talk through those two options. You could even say, do you want help with this? I hear you saying you're really struggling with this. Do you want help, or do you want to try to solve it on your own? That's really good for older students, to give them that like independence of like, ooh, my parent is there, they're there if I need them, but they also know that they have confidence in me that I could maybe solve this on my own. So those are great ways to build that independence as well. Offering like, do you want help? Do you want suggestions? Or do you want to try on your own and then come to me if that doesn't work? Great strategy for older students. All right. So those are 6 positive parenting tips that help align PBIS with the home and to the school. So we talked about that parent engagement piece and how important it is. What I've done here is I've really just put some ideas. This is not all encompassing. There are so many different ways that you can be involved. You being here tonight and just attending this is saying that I'm engaged. I'm a part of my child's education. So there's so many ways. Even something as little as just asking your child very specific questions about their day. I'm not personally a fan of the "how was your day?" I think it's too vague. We get either a good, fine. We can really ask specific questions to get to really, to get more out of our child, and to really start promoting that conversation with them. So some examples of some specific questions about their day you might even want to try is, now, who was someone you helped today? Did anyone help you with anything today? What was something that was hard for you today? How did you persevere through it? Did anyone do anything kind for you? Did you do anything kind for someone today? How did that make you feel? It's one new thing you learned in science today. Who's a friend you sat by at lunch today? really specific questions because that's going to open the door to more conversations. And stay curious. Ask them questions. Check their assignment notebook. Ask them about what they're learning. Let them share. A great time to share and talk is in the car. And I think it's because there's no eye contact. A lot of things come out in the car rides because there's no eye contact. There's no pressure of having to like look at you and tell you something to your face, but it's a great conversation time. Before bed, I know in my house, everything comes out before bed. So that's how it goes in my house. But also a great time to have those conversations, have talk time before bed. Like, hey, we're going to save a little time and just talk before bed. Make sure you're reading all of the district newsletters. Every other Thursday, the D73 Digest goes out. So that is a bi-weekly newsletter, and it's a s'more newsletter, and it comes from the district, and that is where you will find all of our communication from the district. That is every other week. Every Friday, the principals send a newsletter. So every other Thursday and every Friday, you should be receiving communication through the schools. And yes, I know sometimes it's a lot of content, but it's really important to stay up to date on what's happening around the school and talk to your children about that as well. So that being said, if you're ever looking for more support, you always want to reach out to their teacher first. And then we have administrators who are always willing and there to partner with you. We have social workers. We have our website, which has a whole bunch of community resources available if you go to my part of that website. You have me. I'm happy to help in any ways, of course. We have a family liaison. She's new this year. Her name is Sol Cabatuela, and she really works to partner with families who need any outside support and access to any needs that they might have for their family. And we have a phenomenal student services team that works with, our students with IEPs, 504s, any type of needs in that way. So we have just layers and layers of support in our district. There is no lacking of support. So when in doubt, reach out if you have any questions. The resources that I used for tonight's presentation came from the Center on PBIS, the CDC, and Common Sense Education. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for being here tonight. We do have quite a lineup of parent-guardian education for the year. Watch for some communication coming out in the next couple of weeks with even more events. My contact information is here. Here's where you can find me. Email is always the best way to find me. And because I do go from school to school, I'm in all the schools. So email is the quickest way to get a hold of me. And with that being said, does anyone have any questions? I am going to go ahead and stop the video recording. So give me 1 second.